You remember cars like the Chevrolet Impala or the Ford LTD? Long hoods, bench seats, and doors so heavy they shut with that deep thunk. Those cars felt like tanks, powered by big V8 engines that rumbled before you even touched the gas. But here's the twist. Just because a car feels tougher doesn't always mean it's safer. And just because a newer car is packed with tech doesn't mean it's perfect either. So the real question is, when it comes to safety, comfort, and everyday driving, which era of cars actually wins? If you grew up riding in cars like that, or you're helping a parent or spouse choose what to drive today, this topic really hits home. A lot of us learned to drive in older cars, but now we're surrounded by screens, sensors, and buttons that feel straight out of a spaceship. We're comparing old cars versus new cars, how they're built, how safe they really are, how comfortable they feel, and what they cost to own long term. Most importantly, we'll talk about what actually makes sense today, especially if comfort, safety, and peace of mind matter more than speed or flash. Let's rewind a bit and talk about classic American iron. Cars like the Chevrolet Bel Air, the Ford Galaxie, or those long family station wagons you could fit half the neighborhood into. These things were built with thick steel, wide bench seats, and almost no electronics to speak of. You didn't have touchscreens or warning lights everywhere. You had a speedometer, a fuel gauge, and maybe an AM radio if you were lucky. And those doors? They were heavy. You shut one, and it sounded like a bank vault closing. No rattle, no flex, just solid. Because of that, a lot of folks felt these cars were basically indestructible. And in a way, they were, at least when it came to everyday bumps and fender benders. But here's the trade-off. All that strength meant the car itself didn't give much in a serious crash. The car stayed stiff, and the people inside absorbed more of the impact. That's the part nobody really talked about back then. Now let's talk safety, because this is where the difference between old cars and new cars really shows up. In many classic cars, seat belts weren't even standard at first, and when they were, you usually got a simple lap belt. Airbags. Most older models didn't have any at all. Cars like the Ford Torino or early Chevy Caprice were strong on the outside, but offered very little protection from the side or in a hard impact. Fast forward to today, and even everyday cars like a modern Toyota Camry or Ford Escape are loaded with safety gear. You've got multiple airbags all around you, electronic stability control that helps keep the car from sliding, and crash avoidance systems that can brake or warn you before you even react. Here's a surprising fact. Modern cars are actually designed to give in a crash. They crumple on purpose to absorb energy, instead of passing that force straight to your body. And that matters more than ever, especially with heavier traffic, faster roads, and the reality that reaction time and night vision just aren't what they used to be. Comfort is another area where old cars and new cars feel very different. Back then, cars like the Buick Electra or Oldsmobile Delta 88 floated down the road. They had soft suspension, wide seats you could slide across, and those long hoods stretching out in front of you. Driving felt smooth and relaxed, but parking one of those boats could be a workout. Newer cars flipped the script. Models like the Honda CR-V or Chevy Equinox sit a little higher, which makes stepping in and out a whole lot easier. The steering is lighter, the cabins are quieter, and you don't feel worn out after a short trip to the store. Now, let's be honest, this is where opinions split. Some folks love touchscreens. Others say, just give me real knobs I can grab without taking my eyes off the road. The good news is that many modern cars still offer both. When it comes to reliability and repairs, this is where old cars and new cars really split personalities. Older vehicles, like a classic Chevy Nova or Ford F-100 pickup, were pretty easy to understand. You could pop the hood and actually see what was going on. Repairs were hands-on, and many folks did basic maintenance themselves. The downside? These cars needed attention more often. Tune-ups, adjustments, and little fixes were just part of regular life. Newer cars are a different story. Models like a modern Toyota RAV4 or Chevy Malibu can go a long time without breaking down. They start every morning, idle smoothly, and don't need constant tweaking. But when something does go wrong, it's usually not a wrench and screwdriver job anymore. It's computer diagnostics, sensors, and specialized equipment. So it's really a trade-off. Older cars require more frequent care, while newer cars ask for fewer visits, but sometimes bigger bills. The key is knowing which kind of headache you'd rather deal with. Now let's talk about something that really matters: what these cars cost you over time. A lot of older cars were never designed to save fuel. Big engines in cars like the Chevrolet Impala or Ford Crown Victoria were smooth and powerful, but they liked to drink gas. Back then, nobody thought much about mileage. Today, that can hit your wallet fast, especially if you're on a fixed income. Modern cars like a Toyota Corolla or Honda Accord go a lot farther on a gallon of gas. That adds up month after month. Insurance can be another factor. Newer cars often come with safety features that can lower insurance costs, while older cars may not offer the same protection if something goes wrong. There's also the long-term picture. Older cars might be cheaper to buy up front, but parts, fuel, and repairs can pile on quietly. Newer cars cost more at the start, no doubt, but they often balance that out with better efficiency, fewer surprise breakdowns, and added safety that helps avoid costly accidents. That's why this saying still holds. Cheap to buy doesn't always mean cheap to keep. So which one actually makes sense today? Older cars can still be a good fit if you don't drive much, enjoy simple mechanics, and have a trusted local mechanic who knows the vehicle inside and out. For some folks, that familiarity brings peace of mind, and that counts for a lot. Newer cars tend to make more sense if comfort, safety, and ease of driving are top priorities. Features like better visibility, lighter steering, and modern safety systems can make everyday driving feel less stressful and more confident. And then there are the middle ground cars that aren't brand new, but aren't old school either. They offer modern safety and comfort without all the newest, most complicated tech. For many seniors, that balance ends up being the best of both worlds. Now I'd love to hear from you. What was the first car you ever drove, or the one you remember most growing up? Drop it in the comments and tell us what you loved about it. If this video helped you think a little differently about old cars versus new ones, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and stick around. We share simple, practical tips to make everyday life and driving just a little easier.